Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym Podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2073. The topic is training, and the title is The Impact of Drugs and Supplements on Training Outcomes. One of my current clients is a personal trainer. We're doing some business development. They want to look better and perform better in order to grow their business. They're wanting to get into powerlifting and doing men's classic physique competitions. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to work with them. I appreciate the chance to work with them. And in one of our recent discussions, they asked the following question: of what you see online, what is real versus what is drugs? And it was interesting, so we talked quite a bit, and I wanted to share in today's podcast some key points from that discussion. But that was, in a sense, their question, of what you see online, what's real versus what is drugs. They're wanting to know what's possible. So we talked about the impact that steroids have for strength, size, and leanness, based on a person's training. And what this means is if this trainer wants to compete in the world of social media, meaning they want to try to draw eyes to them for business, do they have to take drugs? And if so, how much is enough? And if so, are there legal supplements they could be pushing harder first that would be remotely as significant as steroids and illegal drugs in regards to how they can look and how they can perform? They're lacking confidence as to whether their best will matter. It's a tough position to be in. I certainly have felt this and still feel this. One of the funny points I made to the trainer was that they hired me, and I am certainly not the strongest person on social media, nor am I the leanest or the biggest or any of the ists. So it was, he kind of chuckled a little bit in a good way, it answered his own question. The reason why he hired me, and we talked about it, was he had known two of my former clients. They got great results. He's been following me on social media. A lot of the stuff that I say, he tries, and it seems to work. It seemed to him that I knew the subject matter well and that I would care, that I would give a personal approach to everything we did, and that he would get the best of my abilities, and the percentage of my ability, the percentage of my attention was going to get a better outcome than anyone else in his mind, in the sense that could he go hire, professional bodybuilder? Maybe he's not going to get great attention from that professional bodybuilder, so maybe they know a lot, but what level of their knowledge is he going to get? And that was, in a sense, the quote-unquote selling point for him to work with me was I cap my clients. I only work with 60 people at a time. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that, and it ensures that I can give the best quality of work. I'm always trying to do better. It's just my nature. But it allows me to do the best quality of work. I have made mistakes in the past where I said yes to too many people, tried to help everyone, and ended up helping no one because I was too spread thin. So I like the structure I have now. I like the way that I get to do things now. And it was evidenced by this person choosing to hire me that they could see the benefit in the structure that I have is you're going to get, as best of me as you're going to be able to get. And that's a pretty good best. So as I said, I'm not the strongest, the fastest, the leanest. I'm not the ists, but you're definitely going to get my best. Some of the key points of the discussion that I wanted to share in regards to drugs and supplements. The first was that drugs and supplements can only enhance the work you do. Meaning you have to be doing the work. You have to be doing absolutely everything that supports the physiological processes in which the drugs and supplements can help. So, for example, if you take a steroid and it increases the rate of protein synthesis, meaning the rate in which you can convert dietary protein to muscle tissue. Well, you have to be eating enough dietary protein for that to happen. You can have the fastest rate of protein synthesis in the world, but if you undereat protein, you're going to underdevelop muscle tissue. So all of these drugs, it's a very simple example, but all of the drugs, all of the supplements that you can take, legal or not, they have physiological pathways in which they make their impact. There are ways in which they interact in the body that makes the impact, that makes the result. We have to have all of the supporting stuff in place. Everything has to be we have to create the right environment for that drug then to come in and do the best of what it can do. Again, the example, let's say, for example, you take a cutting drug, a drug that's supposed to help you burn body fat, but you're eating inconsistently. Some days you're in a caloric surplus, some days you're at a caloric maintenance, some days you're severely underfed, almost too severe. Then that drug's not really going to help. If anything, it's going to probably cause heart palpitations and some other dehydration problems and some other things. It's going to cause more problems than it's going to cause benefits because you don't have the nutritional support for what that drug does. So drugs and supplements, they only enhance the work you do. You have to do the work. So that way the environment in which the drug or supplement can thrive and make its change is cultivated, it's nurtured, it's present. So I was telling this client that, through acquaintances, through friends in the gym world, through former clients, just through the experience of being, in this world. So I started lifting weights when I was 16. I'm 40 now. So I've been doing this for 24 years. You meet a lot of people. And in 24 years, I have met an enormous amount of people, like hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people, who take illegal steroids. And, oh my gosh, it barely looks like they work out. And the reason why is because they don't have that environment in place. They don't give a way for the drug to actually do its job. They make a ton of nutrition mistakes, number one being just inconsistency. So maybe they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to take a bunch of testosterone, I'm going to get freaking jacked. So after my workouts, I'm going to eat, a big pizza, or I'm going to eat this huge meal. I'm going to go to the fast food place and, pound down a couple of hamburgers or something after a training. So they go to the gym, they kill themselves for an hour and a half, 2 hours. They eat this big meal, and then they don't eat again for 6 hours. Or they wake up the next morning and don't eat anything until they take, 3 doses of a pre-workout midday to work out in the middle of the day, but they've been awake for 6 hours and haven't eaten anything. So the inconsistency of their nutrition is preventing the drug from being able to have its full effect. You also have people that make nutrition mistakes to overeat. They don't count calories enough. They don't track what they're doing. They'll count some things, but not all things. So I had someone tell me the other day is that they're like, man, I've been counting my calories and it's been slow. The process has been really slow. And I've even been counting the calories in dressings. I've been counting the calories in some snacks I've been having. And I was like, yeah, of course. What the hell? Yes. Why would you not track things that have calories if you're counting calories? That? It's almost like they were like, I'm doing this extra step of even tracking dressings and sauces. And it's like, no shit. You should be doing that. That's not, do you want a cookie? Congratulations, well done. What the hell are you talking about? That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what counting calories is. You count calories. So I was just looking at him. I'm like, you're crazy. What are you doing? Why are you even, you shouldn't be admitting this. You shouldn't be saying this out loud. So, but it was interesting. But it's extremely common is people will overeat and then they wonder why they're not losing weight. And it's like, well, you're not committing to the whole process. You're doing some of it. You're doing enough to feel mildly uncomfortable, which you think warrants some results, but you're not going all the way in. And that's always going to hinder results. So people are inconsistent with their eating. They overeat or they undereat. I have people, client histories and, people I've talked to where they'll take a lot of steroids to try to get stronger and grow muscle tissue. but you find out they're under eating. So maybe they are supposed to be having 3,000 calories a day. They'll get that, 3-4 days a week. The rest of the week, they're maybe only having like 2,200 calories. And you're like, what are you doing, man? You can take all the drugs you want. The drugs only interact with food to make the change. If you don't have the food, why are you even taking the drug? You're just going to get the negative potential or the negative actual results from taking the drugs. None of the positives if you're not getting that nutritional support. Then training. People will take drugs and not even train. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, the training is a stimulus for change. The training is often part of creating the environment in which the drug will work. So people will take fat burner pills and then they don't even work out. I can't even tell you how many times that's happened. People are like, oh, I take such and such, in the morning before breakfast, I take this drug with my coffee, and then 4 hours later at lunch I'll have food, and then at dinner I only eat this and this, and I just don't seem to be losing weight. And I'm like, why the hell? What? I was like, first of all, how are you not nauseous all day? And actually they probably are, or it turns out they are. But they take these fat burner things and they don't even work out. They don't even do they don't even go for walks. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So training can be all over the place. It can be non-existent. It can be inconsistent. It can be overtraining. People will take a ton of drugs and train like a mad person. And unfortunately what happens is some drugs really only have a reinforcing and kind of growth component related more so to muscle tissue, not connective tissue. So they tend to overtrain the connective tissue, and they get detachments and tears and aches and pains and arthritis and all these issues because they're training to the drug's ability to recover the muscle tissue, but not the body's ability to recover the connective tissue. And not knowing the difference between those two absolutely jacks people up. So there are a myriad of mistakes that people will make with nutrition and training that would result in the drugs having very minimal, if any, impact. And then even if you're doing those things relatively well, if you're only doing them 70% well, you're only going to get 70% of that drug, like the drug impact. So nutrition and training, the environment in which you're providing for the drug to do its job, has to be maximized if you want the maximum outcome of the drug. And that's often overlooked. People think, I'll just take this drug and it'll do the work. No, it doesn't. Like supplements and drugs, they enhance the work you do. You can't take a fat burner and sit on your ass and expect to lose body fat. You can't, do anything and inconsistently eat and expect to see progress. Nutrition and training are still the limiting factors. You can't take a drug to replace the discipline that you don't have. There's no drug that replaces discipline. There's no drug that replaces the fact that you still have to freaking earn it. You still have to do the work. You can't skirt the work. You can't get around it. There's no shortcuts to this shit. You got to actually do it. Now, if nutrition and training are managed properly, can drugs and supplements help? Yes, absolutely. That's why they exist. That's why they're so coveted. That's why, there's $1 billion business in the black market and whatever the heck the legal market is for supplements and drugs. But there's still going to be limitations. There's genetic responses to drugs. Some people respond better to drugs than other people. Kevin Levrone, if you in the world of bodybuilding, good God, that dude had crazy response to drugs. To see his transformation, not as much from like the early in his career, but when he was a bodybuilder, he then quit and then tried to come back to compete at like around 50. The transformation he was able to make was absolutely insane. So some people have incredible genetic response to drugs. And some people don't. It's like other genetic components such as height. Some people are 5 foot tall, some people are 7 foot tall. There's so much variety to genetics that it's going to play a role not only in how you respond to drugs, but the effectiveness of training. So there's a lot of people in like drug tested competitions that are just naturally given better hormonal profiles than other people. So just because something's drug tested doesn't mean it's equal. It's more equal than if people were allowed to take drugs, but it's still not equal. There are people who just naturally better hormone profiles than others. That's just life. That's just the way it is. There are so much variety and variance within genetic response and genetic conditions that it will create in some people limitations compared to other people, even if nutrition and training are correct. Drug choices and pairings. Pairing together certain drugs works well, certain drugs don't. So if you do want to take drugs, and this would include supplements, legal, illegal, there are pairings that work well, there are pairings that don't, and you got to understand that stuff and know that stuff, not only to avoid negative side effects, but also to maximize the utilization of each one. So, for example, a mistake people make is if you're looking at like testosterone-based steroids, is people will just take more and more testosterone rather than maybe splitting the testosterone and pairing it with something that complements the testosterone. Therefore, you actually have a lower dose of each. So your total grams are lower, but you're going to get maybe a better, cleaner outcome with lower blood pressure and side effects. So there's pairings that are helpful to know. Drug dosages are often, crazy. Some people, they'll find they're going to get a good response up to a certain amount, and then over a certain amount, it really doesn't help much. So you don't really need to do any more than that because you're just going to run more health risk and it's going to cost more money, just throwing away money. And then duration. Some people have been training hard. They've been doing their nutrition and training correctly without supplements and drugs for, good 5-10 years. Then they got on supplements and drugs. They've done another 5 years. And now all of a sudden they look freaking amazing. But if they've been doing it, they've been living the life for 15 years, you're not going to take one 12-week cycle and catch up. It's not going to happen, So there are limitations even if nutrition and training are correct. So it's important to know that as well. Essentially, what the client was asking in our conversation kind of boiled down to 3 questions. Number 1, can I ever look like these people? Number 2, do I have to in order to feel good about the way I look? And number 3, do I have to in order to be successful in business? So number 1, can I ever look like these people? Depends on the people you're looking at, and there's not a yes and a no. You can probably go case-by-case basis, but I can't talk with each of you and talk about each person that you're trying to look at. So maybe you see 3, 4, 5 physiques online, and you're like, man, I would take any of these 5. Well, looking at you as the individual versus individual number 1 that you're looking at, maybe there's a yes, no. Then you as the individual versus individual number 2, maybe there's a yes, no. So obviously can't tell you yes or no. But one of the things that I would look at, so whenever I look at people online and I'm like, man, that's, good physique, or that's a good level of strength, or that's pretty cool that they can do this weird exercise. I wonder if I could do that. The way in which I would answer that to myself is, do I do what they do? From what I can see, and we know that people aren't 100% transparent online, but from whatever they present, whatever they talk about, whatever they do I do what they do? So right now I'm kind of having fun doing some bodybuilding stuff. That's been my main focus of training. So I'll watch like bodybuilding videos and a day in the life where they talk about nutrition and whatnot. And in today's culture, it is more open for bodybuilders, especially like professional bodybuilders, to talk about their drug usage. So you might find, this bodybuilder stacking 3 or 4 like anabolics. They're also taking growth hormone. They're taking insulin. Some other components, and I'm like, well, am I ever going to look like them? I would have to do all that stuff to look like them. There's no way in the world, in my mind, that I would say, oh, okay, they're doing these 3 steroids plus growth hormone plus insulin, and I'm not doing any of those things, I would very much hope that you could look at that situation and say, okay, I'm not going to look like them. Because the arsenal in which they have, the chemical, the physiological support to look the way they look, I don't have any of that, so I'm not going to look like that. Now, does that discourage me? No, because I look at what I'm doing and I say, okay, of what is available to me, how could I do better? And that always comes down to nutrition first, absolutely first. Are my calories consistent? Is my protein consistent? Am I timing that out throughout the well throughout the day? Am I doing as good on the weekends as I am on the weekdays? Do I do as well when I travel versus when I don't? How many out of every day that I'm alive, how many days am I in my calorie target and protein target? And I don't make any excuses for myself. So if my wife and I are traveling down to Miami for a week for her grad school, and I screw up the travel day going there and coming back, then I know that I'm 2 days less best than I could have been. So I'm not going to bitch and whine and complain when I don't look good, because those are 2 days I could have been better. So I'll fix those 2 days next month, and then I'll look for the next thing to fix. So it's on me. I'm going to look for the areas in which I'm not maximizing what's available to me. And as I maximize more and more and more and more and more of those things, if I were to, say, be able to maximize out of every 28 days, I'm like, man, I'm getting like 26 out of 28 days perfect. And I mean literally in my calorie range, in my protein range, good timing. I'm taking my digestive supplements. I have my training on point. I didn't have to shortchange any workouts because I ran out of time or started too late. Just literally, if I was like, man, I have everything in place, 90% or better, I would then say to myself, okay, am I happy yet? If I look at the way I look, if I consider the weights that I'm able to lift, am I happy? If I was unhappy yet, so I'm 90% plus on my nutrition and training, and I'm still unhappy, then I would look at and say, okay, well, what supplements can I add? If I haven't added the basics such as like creatine, can I add creatine and can that make a help? Am I having digestive problems? Do I maybe need to start to take some like probiotics? Maybe that can help me better utilize the food I'm consuming, and I can get a better growth rate out of the current food I'm already consuming. So that's how I play it, is I just look at what am I doing and what's available to me to do better. I don't look at what the other person is doing in the sense of, oh man, I'm never going to look like them if I'm not doing those drugs. That doesn't do me any, there's no use to that. What's better for me to look at is to say, okay, how can I look my best? Like I look at them and they're looking their best. So congratulations to them. That's badass. That's motivational. To see someone topping out their genetics, man, I wonder if I could do the same. Can I be as disciplined? Can I be as consistent? Can I do the same thing? So then I just look at me. What is my nutrition? What is my training? What are my supplements? How consistent am I being? So I always kind of look back at myself and say, within what's within your control, how well are you controlling it, man? Like, you talk about the things you want, but you better damn sure be backing that up. You can't be talking out your ass, is what I tell myself, is I can't say I want this, but I'm not working for this. Do my wants match my work? That kind of thing. I have to work harder than I want to get what I want, and that's the way it goes. So that's what I look at. Second question, do I have to look like these people in order to feel good about the way I look? That is a personal development thing that you're going to have to play with. That's up for you to decide. Typically, what I have found for myself and for clients is they feel good about the way they look when they're doing well within what they can control. Meaning, if their nutrition is good and they're getting, at least 10 out of 14 days, numbers are on track. And to me, that's a minimum. I would go for 12 out of 14. 10 out of 14 is baseline. So that just means 5 out of 7 days can I hit my calories and protein. That's a minimum needed for just decent progress. Minimum. So once I hit that, I'm going to be pushing up. I'm going to see if I can get 12 out of 14, 13 out of 14. Can I get occasionally, can I get some 14 out of 14s? When people are in those ranges, they tend to feel good about the way they look. And the reason why is because they know that they're doing the work. They know that they're doing what's needed to make progress. They've earned it. And they feel good about the quality of work. And that then makes them feel good about the way they look. They look at themselves not only based on physical, but based on pride. You know, how proud of you are you? Like, are you proud of yourself? If you're doing the work that you should be doing, if your work is matching your words, you're going to feel proud of yourself, and you'll be amazed at how that makes you feel proud of the way you look. You might look at yourself and say, yeah, I'm still fat, I'm still weak, I'm nothing like what I want to be, but damn, I look better than I did last week, I look better than I did last month, I look better than I did last year. I'm excited, I'm fired up, this is great, things are improving, I'm making progress. Progress is what makes people happy. That tends to answer the question of, can you feel happy with the way you look? If you're making progress, you will. How do you make progress? Pay attention to every damn thing you're doing all day. Make sure you're doing the right things. Make sure you're consistent to your adherence, your habits, your actions that you're supposed to be doing. Question number 3 is, do I have to look like these people in order to be successful in business? No, absolutely not. What you have to do is you have to present value to who you want to work with. So whoever your ideal clients are, how can you provide value to them? There is a running coach, I can't think of his name right now, starts with a P, but he has this running performance system. Excuse me. He has this running performance system. The dude is, I think he's like 5'6", maybe 140 pounds. Thin, very thin, very lean, but thin. And he does all these sprint drills, and he works with high-level high school athletes, college athletes, and probably some pros. But he's not the fastest person in the world. Sure as hell is not the largest, most muscular, none of that stuff. He can't do what his athletes do. But does he show knowledge that they need? Yes. Does he show proof of the knowledge that he has actually produces results? Yes. So that's the key. So do you have to look like these people in order to be successful in business? No. But you have to show that you know something that can help people. And how you show that is you teach it, you demonstrate it, you live it. But you also show people that you've helped. So if you haven't helped anybody, if you don't have any clients, work with people for free. Just work with people for free. Get the exposure, get the experience, get the referrals. Just whatever the hell you have to do, just get someone to try anything you say, show that it works, and then eventually someone will start paying you for it. All you have to do is present an opportunity through you that someone else can get closer to their goals. There's something you have that will help them get closer to their ideal life, their ideal self. Whether that's education, whether that's the ability to personalize, whether that's just somebody who gives a shit and is going to check in. You just have to have something that the other person believes will help them reach their goals. You don't have to be the biggest, the leanest, the fastest, the strongest. You don't have to be any of the ists. You just have to have something of value. Find out what value you can provide that you're excited in, that you're fired up to do, and then advertise it, show it, teach it, display it, live it. Right? So do drugs and supplements help? Yes, absolutely, yes they do. But there are significant limiting factors. Nutrition and training being the biggest. You have to have correct calories. And again, it's because drugs and supplements, they help us through physiological pathways. We have to have the support, the environment for that physiological pathway to actually come to fruition, for it to actually work. So your nutrition, your calories, your protein, your timing, all that has to be consistent and correct. Your training, the frequency, intensity, volume, it all has to be consistent and correct. You can even look into lifestyle factors, your sleep quality, your stress management, digestion. Are you hydrated enough? Are you taking digestive aids? All of these foundational components need to be in place and then maximized for the impact of any drug or supplement to be able to be significant and maximized. So is what you see on social media possible? I don't know. It depends on who you're looking at, what you're looking at, where you're starting and who you are and how well you eat and how hard you train, and I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be possible. But is a version of you better than you are today possible? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. How? Nutrition. Figure out your calories. Get them consistent. Figure out your protein. Get it consistent. Time your foods out well throughout the day. Stay hydrated. Maybe take some basic supplements for digestion, for like multivitamins, for general health. Get your nutrition in order. Training. Man, be consistent with it. Make sure you have the right frequency. Once you have a good frequency, be intense with every single thing you do. And then figure out the right volume. Those are the first steps. If you maximize all of those things, you will look and feel better. Then from there, you're trying to maximize all that stuff to the best it can be. And then as you do that, you have the opportunity to add anything in additional that you want, and it will actually have an impact because you have the basics, you have the foundations already set. So hopefully this conversation was helpful in some way. If you have any questions, if you need anything, you can always reach out. At the bottom of our website, our homepage, www.brutalirongym.com, is a contact form. You can send me a question anytime you want, and I'll answer it. I answer everybody's questions within 2 weeks. But I hope that you feel encouraged. I hope that you feel empowered. And I hope that you start by just simply focusing on your nutrition and training. Get some baseline supplements. I'd prefer that you do the legal ones. Like I said, like maybe some creatine, some sleeping aid to get like better quality sleep, digestive aid. Maybe you need a pre-workout to get you some ramped up and fun. Maybe you want some protein powder to help meet your protein demands. Get some legal supplements if you want to help solidify the foundation of nutrition and training. But maximize your nutrition and training first. You're going to see amazing, wonderful, great results. And then if you were going to ever add drugs and supplements, all that stuff has to be in place first anyhow. So you have to do this step, whether you do it now or you buy the drugs, take the drugs, waste it, and then try to figure out the foundation. So get the foundation in place first. It's no matter what you do, it's what you got to do, whether you start it now or start it later. If you have any questions, reach out. I'm always here and I'm always happy to help. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people we can help. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. Also, if you like the information we share on the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.